Hey guys, Metal Jesus here, and I am back again with Drunken Master Paul.
Once again in the Metal Jesus Man Cave, and once again we're going to talk about one of the old recordings from the old Game Dive days.
These are awesome.
So what this is I was on this show called Game Dive on World Stream, which was essentially an internet radio station that Ken Williams did, back in the day, and I dug up these archive recordings of all the shows I did, and the Metal Jesus has been kind enough to bring them to you.
Oh, it's an excellent snapshot into what it was like to be like a gamer at the time, a developer at the time. And this video is very special because it is part one with an interview with Valve. And what's cool about this video, or this interview, is that it's about 4 months after the original Half-Life shipped.
Yes.
And a couple months right before they're going to release Team Fortress Classic.
Right, and this interview has Gabe Newell, and we had Robin Walker in the studio, and my memory's a little fuzzy because beer, but
Right.
I think they had just recently gotten Robin Walker.
Okay.
I'm not positive on that. Don't quote me on it, because the last one of these things we did, I said it was 30 years ago. It was only 20. And
time.
Yeah, math.
But so this is a really cool interview, and also as an extra bonus, because we've done a few of these, people have asked for it, to give us a little bit of our thoughts and perspective on this. At the end of this video,
yeah, we're going to throw in a little extra stuff for you
Yeah.
about what the experience was like in the recording studio, about the game, and just whatever else we can think of.
all right, let's take a look.
Hey, welcome to Boot Desk on Talkspot.com with the computer guys. I'm Paul.
I'm Robert.
And we are taking on Half-Life today. You guys have heard us talking about Half-Life for the past, 3-4 years?
Oh, at least.
We've been going over Half-Life, talking about it, along with all the other internet games we've been touting and trashing over the past few months. And yes, indeed, all you, 5,000 people in the chat room, they're here. We've got the gurus from Half-Life with us today.
We are packed in the studio like sardines with practically the whole development team out of Valve and Team Fortress Classic or something like that.
Yeah, there's no work getting done at Valve right now.
Nothing
Nobody's
happening.
here. We have in the studio with us Gabe Newell.
The Boot Disc Half-Life show. What's up?
Hey, yeah, it is the Boot Disc Half-Life show. Thanks, Dan, for pointing that out to us. Yeah, that's Dan, our board op, everybody. He's the longest surviving board op for a Boot Disc. We kind of lose him like drummers in Spinal Tap. But thanks for pointing that out for us. He keeps us on our toes. Anyway, in the studio we have Gabe Newell.
Hi.
That's Gabe. And we have Mark Laidlaw.
Hi there.
And over here to my left is Robin Walker.
G'day.
He gets to share my microphone, so you hear that squeak going back and forth. It's going to be kind of cool. These guys did it. They brought it to you. Gabe, of course, is the founder of Valve, and the head guy. Mark Laidlaw is the main story guy. And Robin is working on Team Fortress, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in the show. And that's it. Thanks for coming.
We're done. Thank you. Oh, one more thing.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to know when Team Fortress is coming out. Should we even answer that, or should we just let that go till next week?
We're going to let that go till next week.
Okay.
We're going to let them stew.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. We've got a ton of people in the chat room. Hey, guys, if you stop spamming the chat room, we might actually be able to answer your questions once or twice.
And we are going to ask Gabe, Mark, and Robin to jump in the chat room. Of course, it'll be under our host name since we only have a limited amount of computers in here during the breaks. So they will try to get to you during the breaks, but not while we're live.
So watch your stuff and see you can answer some of those questions. Hopefully there'll be new questions and not the
they
ones
haven't
we've been
heard
hearing.
1,000 times?
Yes.
Okay, so you're limited to questions that have not been answered 999 times. or
That's
more.
right. The first person who says CD key dies.
Okay, we'll do all the talking about the CD key.
So, for those of you that, you guys all know what Half-Life is. Half-Life is certainly the best shooter that's come out, period.
And it's sitting right up there at the top of the charts. It's the #1 selling game currently in its genre.
So, Gabe, did you expect this kind of a pickup on Half-Life when you started this whole sleigh ride, or
No.
was it a surprise?
When we started Half-Life, we spent a lot of time just talking to gamers and talking to the game press about the kinds of things that they thought that the action genre needed right now. So I guess in that sense, giving people what they were asking for, we shouldn't have been that surprised by the success that Half-Life and the recognition that Half-Life has received. But, realistically to still be, at its sales position almost 4 months in and to have received over 30 Game of the Year awards from all over the world,
Wow.
we're pretty overwhelmed with the response that we've gotten.
Well, and it's all by giving people what they ask for. Wow, what a concept in the gaming world.
Right. We just The only thing we didn't put in it were enough naked women. We'll leave that to some of the other games to do.
Whoa! Like, would that be Tomb Raider, maybe? Yeah, we just had a major disaster in the studio here. Yeah, we're gonna take a quick break and get a mop because Paul just spilled his coffee all over the studio.
Attempting shutdown.
Attempting shutdown. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
I see by all the spam in the chat room that it's best we take care of one thing first. And
Yes.
that's a question on everybody's fingertips. And that is, when is Team Fortress Classic due out?
Robin, why didn't you answer that?
Okay. We've been looking at the feedback we're getting from down in the CPL event at the Extreme Annihilation tournament down there. Because we're running a big LAN fest down there. We're running TFC with some of the couple of the big TF1 clans helping us out there. And from that we're seeing that we're probably about a week away, we think, from finishing up that. And then we'll probably put it on hold for a week where we'll do nothing but play it every day, which makes our job really hard. Everyone hates doing that.
That sucks.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be glad to share the load with you if necessary.
Spread the joy. And so after that, so I guess we're looking at about 2 weeks.
Wow. About 2 weeks till it goes gold, basically?
No, we're about a week, we think, before we'll go gold, but we like to sit on things for another week where we're doing nothing but playing it every day and make sure it's still all working.
We're going to give it out to some external testers that we've lined up, so making sure that in sort of real-world environments that there isn't anything that's going to surprise us.
So for those of you that go to the boards and whine and moan that these things are never tested, there you go. They're tested. They test their brains out. They get to spend a week on the company dime playing this. They're tested. So 2 weeks for it hits the shelves then? Is what we're looking at?
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
Well, it
there's the
doesn't hit the
definitive
shelves, of course, because it's free. It'll be automatically included in your next upgrade, but...
okay, so it's a generic term meaning in the hands of the public.
So what other ways will there be for the consumer to obtain TF Classic? Is it downloadable? Can they write for a CD somewhere?
There'll be CDs that are distributed at retail. There's a CD called Further Data that retailers like CompUSA carry, Computer City are carrying, and you can get it that way. A lot of people will just download it directly or download it by hitting the update button inside of Half-Life itself. So it's going to be all over the place. We've already got huge interest from the online sites in terms of hosting the download.
What size the download going to be?
I think it's, about 14 meg?
That's 40 meg now, yeah.
Best couple of hours you'll ever spend downloading.
Yeah, enjoying that 14.4 modem, right? Yeah, that's for our AOL users out there who are going to be calling us very soon.
Okay, those guys need to set their machine up about right before they go to bed, start downloading, and when they come back from work the next day, it should be done.
Well, you'll probably get magazines on the shelves then faster than your download, so you might just wait until it shows up on those CDs.
So it's going to be widely available, and the key word here is it's free. Awesome.
Well, the key word is great.
Great.
The free part is, I think, a function of the fact that we're really interested in getting as wide an audience exposed to the sort of social and role-based action experience, rather than, a lot of people have never had a chance to play the original Team Fortress, and the more we play it, the more we think it's the future of multiplayer action experiences. So we just want to make sure that everybody has a chance to play it. So we're going to blow it out every way we can.
Okay, would you throw down a quick description of Team Fortress? Now, personally, I've been in Reno for a few days, so my brain is pretty much fried at this point. A quick description of what they're going to be looking for, what this is all about.
Team Fortress is essentially a role-based team play, multiplayer social experience. So each player in the game picks a role which gives him different abilities and weapons, from a role like sniper to a role like scout or soldier or spy. And players have to work in teams and utilize each other's abilities to achieve a common goal, which varies depending on different missions. You might be capturing flags, you might be defending your base against enemy attackers, you might be trying to hold territory, you might be a bodyguard having to defend a single dictator or something from being killed by enemy assassins.
Right now, that's our favorite game. There's this new game type that ships, or a new map that ships with Team Fortress Classic called Hunted, and we're all playing that obsessively. Right, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, somebody will send out an email message at Valve saying something along the lines of "must play." Yeah, must hunt. And so somebody plays a dictator, and then there are a group of bodyguards and a bunch of people trying to hunt them down and kill them, kill the dictator. And it's just it's hysterical. I don't think I've ever heard people at Valve scream as loudly as during the final moments of either success or failure in that game.
Oh, wow. Now, how does that compare to the other game by Sierra Tribes, which is also squad-based in that kind of genre? Any ideas?
It's a tricky question, I guess.
That's why I'm here to ask the tricky questions and spill my coffee on the board. That's my job.
I think that basically, I think when people play Team Fortress Classic, they're going to be very happy with the variety of the gameplay and how well balanced the roles are. The intensity, the density is pretty high when you play. It's not like this wide open wandering around looking for something to happen. The experience is pretty intense, and the frequency with which something team-oriented or socially oriented happens is probably a lot higher than it is in Tribes.
The variety in what you do in the Team Fortress Classic game tends to be a lot more explicit. So, I mean, we have some of our stronger classes like Spy and stuff like that who disguise themselves as enemies, sneak into the enemy base and attack them from behind and send reconnaissance from inside the enemy base. Stuff like that gives a much wider variety, I think, sort of.
Why don't you describe what you were doing to Wes the other day? I think that'll give people an idea of why.
Okay.
Now, Wes is
another, one of our network administrators and programmers at Valve. He plays a heavy weapons guy who's a class who moves extremely slowly and is extremely well armoured, carries an enormous gun. We play on a map which is territorial control, where each team has to take flags from their base and put them on points out there in the territory to gain control of those points. And each team game is scored based on the number of points they control every 30 seconds. And so you're fighting for territory with other teams. And I play a spy, and I infiltrate my way into the enemy base, and I feign death and lie on the ground pretending to be dead, watching them move in and out of their base, waiting for them to send one guy out with a flag, because they can send out lots of guys, but we only care about how much territory they control. And so I wait, and when they send out a guy with that, with a flag, I get up and I pretend to be a bad guy, and I walk along and I escort him to the command point until I get him. It's all about watching what the enemy do, and I pretend to be a friend, and I run along beside him and escort him until we get to a point where I look around, there's no other enemy, and as soon as he's looking the other way, I hit him in the back with my knife and kill him instantly.
You evil bastard.
Finally,
shared that because it could be used against you. Yeah, nice.
You were up to that. That's right.
Finally, a game that caters to my first-person shooter skills, which is that I can just lay there and play dead for hours at a time.
Well, what we were watching Robin do is Wes was looking at them, with the skeletal animation in Team Fortress Classic. We could see that Wes was looking we were looking over Robin's shoulders, and he'd look at him, and then he'd sort of turn away to look at something else, and Robin would pop up and move 3 or 4 feet closer, and then lie back down again, and then he'd look back, and you could almost see this little thought balloon, with little question marks going on above Wes's head, and slowly, Robin inched closer and closer to Wes, and he turns around, and
he's just staring right at me, and I'm lying on the ground looking up at him. He was on a vantage point above me, and I had Eric sitting next to me, and the two of us he must have seen me, And he just looked at me, and it felt like 2-3 minutes he'd been looking at me until then he looked away, and we moved another meter forward. It was like a little comedy routine. When people look away, this guy moves forward.
And that's the kind of social interaction that you get out of having a pretty dense game with a lot of rule-driven capabilities and with a lot of dependencies between the different things. So the heavy weapons guy, who's probably the most powerful damage-creating instrument in the game, can be completely neutralized by just clever tactics and sneaking up by playing dead. So, and that's the kind of gameplay that we think is going to have a lot of appeal to a lot of people.
A lot of the animation too. But the way it was possible to develop a relationship with an NPC in Half-Life, it occurs to a different, but in some ways greater extent with your other character classes in Team Fortress. Just because the characters look around, where they're looking all the time, they're running and bending and shooting behind them, and if you're staking out and protecting your flag with another 1 or 2 guys, you get to know them and the way that they act and move and scuttle around. and all of a sudden one will pop up who has the same name as the guy who's been standing next to you for 15 minutes. You go, one of these guys is probably a spy.
One of these things doesn't belong here. Well, in Team Fortress, it's a social aspect with lots of other people playing online. In Half-Life, at least for me, I really like the single player is what caught me in the storyline. Now you're playing against a computer, but the AI and the story was great, and that was your doing.
Well,
right, Mark?
the doing of there's a lot of really creative talent at Valve, and we all and the ideas came from all over the place. A lot of what I did was just pull stuff. There'd be a lot of ideas flying around, and I'd try to grab the ones that seemed to fit and would help tell the story according to where you were at that moment in time.
Now, did the story come about? Did you write the story for the engine, for the technology, or did you write it and then the technology would adapt to the story?
Well, I joined very much in the middle of things, and it was a process of watching the technology evolve at the same time that we were trying to figure out what was possible and what might be possible. Mm-hmm. We try to stay one jump ahead of ourselves in terms of what we thought we'd be able to pull off. And at the same time, I'd come in every morning and there'd be something that I had no idea was possible the day before. So we'd try to take advantage of that, too. And it was a real balancing act, very exciting.
Now, the one thing about Half-Life is that it was the first unique first-person shooter to come along in quite some time. Up to then, it's pretty much clone after clone, and a lot of people played the clones, but we're getting a little sick of them. Now, Half-Life was really story-driven, which was something a little bit new and unusual, and it was the first one since Doom to give you that creepy feeling as you played through the game, which sort of harkened back to the good old days for a lot of people, except with much better graphics. And the NPCs were interactive and part of the game, but also in the opening sequence, it was not your typical movie clip. You're actually in the game, and all through the game, when there was a point where you needed to interact and find information, it was in the game. There was never cut scenes. Why was the decision made to junk cut scenes and movie clips and just do the whole thing inside the game?
We felt really strongly about that from the beginning, although there were a few points where we had some doubts about what we were going to be able to accomplish. And I, for instance, went from just totally believing that we could, if possible, we could and should do the story completely without any kind of cinematics and do it completely from one point of view, to about midway through my involvement thinking there's just no way we're ever going to be able to do that. We're going to have to use camera to show some stuff. And then once it became obvious what really great effects we could get by staying in the first-person point of view, we just decided to go all the way with that, and camera was just never even discussed at that point after that.
Day one completely fooled me that way. I really thought the tram ride was some kind of silicone graphics movie until I realized you could move.
Yeah, that was really deliberate. We pictured people would start playing the train ride and just think, oh, okay, here's the cinematic, and then accidentally bump their mouse and have this sort of revolution of what is possible. Yeah, I've been really happy to hear that this plan that we had actually represented people's experience of the game.
Well, we're going to take a short break and come back with a little bit of a history of how Valve came about and where it's going maybe in the future. But first, we're going to actually make it worth your while to come and listen to Boot Disc for once. Let's give away a goodie. We're going to give away a couple copies of Half-Life today. For those of you that don't have it or want to give it to a friend, I know you people in the chat room probably have 16 copies laying around your...
And for those of you who don't have a legal copy, here's your chance.
Yeah, you thieves. You're all thieves. Okay, so what are we going to do? I'm just winging this.
Let's ask a trivia question.
Okay, let's ask a trivia question. What's a good trivia question?
What's the, I'll ask the first trivia question.
Straight from Gabe, guys. Listen up on this.
So what's the sort of the official name of the spidery-looking creature in Zen?
Official name of the spidery-looking creature in Zen. Give us a call at 1-800-485-1923 with the answer, or if we see the correct answer pop up in the chat room, our lovely and talented assistant Dan in the booth will hook up with you and give you your prize. This is Boot Disc on TalkSpot.com. We're talking to the creators of Half-Life. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Boot Disc on TalkSpot.com with the computer guys, Paul and Robert. We're talking to the folks from Valve that gave us Half-Life and are going to bring us Team Fortress coming up soon. And we, hey Dan, who won? Did anyone win? I'm interrupting his phone.
I'm on the phone, hold on.
He's on the phone. We threw out a trivia question for you. We're going to give away a couple copies of Half-Life. And the answer is Well, the question was, Gabe, the spidery creature in Zen. What is the spider? Now, which one are you talking about? The big one?
The big one.
The big one with the bag hanging underneath it?
Right.
Yes, I see that smile. I bet there's other names for that amongst the office.
The package.
The package. That is not the official answer. So if you said that, well, you're out of luck. But we know you have a sense of humor anyway. It was Gonarch, of course, and Dan is in the booth right now getting our winner. Also, seems like we got a caller, Dan. I feel like Donahue here. Hello, is the caller there?
Yes, hello.
Hi, who am I talking to?
This is Fatty Chubbs.
Who?
Fatty Chubbs.
Fatty Chubbs. Hi, Fatty Chubbs.
Hi, how you doing?
All right, you have a question for the Valve gurus here?
Yes, they're releasing TFC in 2 weeks, and I was wondering if they're going to have the code base for that for Half-Life, the game DLL. The source.
The source code?
Yes.
Well, there's an SDK with a bunch of game source that's available now. If you contact Harry Teasley, it's not completely finalized because we haven't shipped the 009 update, which is the final binaries for both the SDK and for Team Fortress Classic. But it contains a bunch of source code. I'm not sure there's any Team Fortress Classic source code in that, is there?
We're not planning to at the moment, no.
Yeah, but there's more than enough source code in there to choke a horse. So if you're interested in that, send mail to het3@valvesoftware.com. There's a pre-release version of that available now, and then the final version, which basically may not change anything, will go out at the same time that the 009 update goes out in 2 weeks.
I see. And you mentioned earlier on some other press releases and stuff that you guys were doing some stuff to make the source code easier to make mods and stuff. I mean, what kind of modifications were you making? Are you just commenting a lot of the code, or?
John and I have, throughout the course of it, we use TFC as a method of checking to see how well the SDK would work in terms of making mods. So we've done a fair few changes to just the layout of both of the code, making sure the client-side DLL is powerful enough to allow mod makers to change a lot of stuff without having to rewrite the entire client-side DLL, like making the whole HUD customizable without having to write that. And so we've done a whole scope of changes to the DLL to make it work well.
Right. Some of the other things that you can do are from your mod, you can redo all of the user interface in the game, so you don't have, if you add new key configs or something like that, that automatically or can be reflected in the configurations. You can redo the menus. You can, when you've activated Team Fortress Classic as your mod, it's going to take over all of the graphics, so it's going to look like a Team Fortress game rather than just using all the Half-Life graphics. The other thing that we've added is a browser for mods. We thought, one of the things that seems like is that mods have traditionally been way too difficult for people to find and way too difficult for mod developers to get distributed. So there'll actually be a master server that keeps track of all the mods that people want to distribute via the launcher. And so when you go in and you see a list of all the different mods, and you can just download them and have them configured automatically. So it'll tell you which ones you have, which ones you don't have, and you can activate them, and then it'll, basically change the user interface and menus and graphics around. And, we think that's really cool. The couple of people who are trying to use it now are really, really excited and think it's a big step forward for mod developers.
Now, isn't there something on World Opponent Network, the One Swap that they have up for switching and distributing mods and skins? Is that similar to what you're talking about, or is Half-Life going to utilize that at all?
It's similar. We think that it's that's a great way of from packaging stuff up, but it doesn't really solve things like user interface configuration. It doesn't sort of notify people inside of the game that when new mods are available. So it does solve some of the problems, but we think that there's a lot more work we need to do to make mods easier for users and do a better job making Half-Life itself become a distribution tool for the mod developers who are trying to reach, I think well over 1 million people right now who have Half-Life.
Terrific. Did that answer your question?
Yep, that was my third question, so thank you very much.
All right. Thanks for calling.
What mod are you working on?
I'm not working on anything official yet, but I'm seriously, and I've never really played Quake or Quake 2 or anything, but I mean, Half-Life really captured my interest, and so I definitely was looking through a lot of their source code and stuff, and I definitely want to try work on a Half-Life. It looks a lot of fun.
Yeah, what sort of ideas do you have?
I'm going to start just trying making some weapons of my own. Hopefully get some help with models and stuff from people, but nothing solid yet. I don't want to get ahead of myself, and start a webpage up for a mod I'm not going to do,
Okay. Well, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you. All right, bye.
So you'll have a server just to distribute the mods and mod levels and change the interface as well from within the game.
Right.
So one click, it fires up, and all your needs are taken care of.
Right. For most people, solving the distribution problem is going to be a huge win. There are thousands of great things being developed by people around the internet that most game customers never ever hear about. So we want to make sure that all happens automatically and is just much less painful for both the distributors and the gamers.
And as a mod maker, it's really exciting to me to see a distribution method like this being given to mod makers in the world over. And when we were making Team Fortress 1, it was really hard. We had to get people to download, unzip to the right directory, install, know how to bind keys, know how to use the console. They had to read the README, and now I don't have to worry about any of that. I can just release my mod, tell one it exists, one will put it on the distribution. Players just click on the button to download, it gets installed correctly for them. My new keys for my mod appear in the configuration list. It's great. I wish I had this right from the start.
And there are also some new entities that people can take advantage of that make exposing game rules and things like that to players. It sort of means that they don't even have to go read README files. You can just expose that the first time somebody plays a game.
Like they're going to go read README files.
Right, exactly.
We've been dealing with these folks for a long time. README files? What's that?
Well, it's surprising the number of people who weren't even aware that the amount of damage that a sniper causes in the original Team Fortress is a function of how long you depress the firing trigger.
Wow.
That's the sort of thing where you go, wow, that's so fundamental to the character's abilities, and yet a lot of people weren't even aware of it. So doing something like this where we make it as easy as possible for mod makers to document their games inside of the games, we think is another nice part of the puzzle to solve.
Kind of like color-coded for your convenience. We're going to take another quick break, and we'll be back with the makers of Half-Life, Gabe Newell, Mark Laidlaw, and Robin Walker from Valve, and talk a little bit more about what's coming up in the future. This is Boot Disc on TalkSpot.com. Welcome back to Boot Disc on TalkSpot.com. We're talking about Half-Life. We got the people in the know here in the studio.
And there's a few questions in the chat room we're going to try to get to right now.
Yeah, first of all, I think the most important burning question that came across the chat room from, I think he meant hiatus, but it's hiatus in the room. What's the progress on Diablo 2? I mean, how is that one looking?
Well, we dispatched a security guard down to the lower rings of hell, and you just hear gunfire every now and then and screaming.
Is Gordon going down to hell?
He'll probably go down to try to get a security guard back and bring him back through the Orpheus theme.
Bring back Barney.
If I play Diablo 2 and someone's just lying on the ground and seems to be moving closer and closer to me, could it be a spy from TF Classic?
It's Robin, stomping fast.
Yes, if you see a dead person moving at you in Diablo 2, it's Robin.
It's Robin.
Get him.
Get him and then burn the body.
Some other questions in the chat room that are worth answering right now. Someone asked what the progress is on a Linux server version of Half-Life.
I think the last word from Zoid is that he's got it running and it's all working. He's just testing it now. So I think we're looking to release that about the same time as TFC and the SDK.
And that answers two questions because people are also asking when the SDK was going to be available in relation to TFC, and it's about the same time.
Well, the SDK is available right now. It's just not fully finished. If you want to try it out, you're welcome to mail Harry Teasley, which I think we've given out the email address already, het3@valvesoftware.com, and he'll get you that version of the SDK. The only thing you have to be aware of is that it may change between now and when we fully release it with the SDK.
So don't be calling tech support.
That's right.
In general, when you get stuff that isn't released yet, don't call tech support, especially if you happen to get it from a wares site.
The people we have given out the SDK to, and any new people ask it, we are very interested in what you have to say about it. The SDK, the whole plan of releasing it early was to get feedback on it and find ways we can improve it. So it's not to say don't ask us if you need help, but please give us your suggestions.
Cool. I hope that answered the question for you guys in the chat room. There's one person that keeps asking, and the most important question is if he's an orange. No, I think you need to dial 911 real soon or get professional help. Go down to your local produce market with a mirror, and I think you'll be able to figure that one out all by yourself, okay?
And we have another one here from Arctic.com who's saying, where can you get that SDK? I can't tell from Robin's accent.
Robin has an accent?
We'll say it again in English this time.
HET3. It stands for Harry E. Teasley III at valvesoftware.com.
And Robin was kind enough to put it up in the chat room as well. And Robin had an accent? I didn't notice.
I didn't notice a thing myself either. I'm not sure where this guy's coming from.
Yeah, this leads right into the accent story you had down at
down at another trade show in Vail, Colorado, with all the Sierra crowd. And I had 3 marketing people, 2 of whom were from South Africa, one from the UK and one from Australia, and they were arguing over who had the worst accent. And the South African is the one who got in the final blow when he did his Aussie impression. He said, we don't have the bad accent, it's the Aussies. They're the ones who are always going, oh look, a dingo took my baby. So that pretty much settled the question.
A bad impersonation of an Australian accent from South Africa. I'm sorry, I missed that one.
The worst thing that's happened to me so far in this country with my accent is phoning up Babbage's or some company like that to get some information off their phone service, and it was voice recognition. I talked to that thing like 10 times before it gave up on me and then gave me to an operator. Couldn't understand me.
I never thought of that. Hey, Dan, we had another call coming in. Hello, this is Boot Disc. Who am I talking to?
This is GamerX from Fortress2.com.
Hey.
GamerX, any relation to RacerX?
No. GamerX, Fortress2.com, recently spotlighted on TF Spotlight, blah, blah, blah. Basically, all the guys over at Fortress2.com wanted me to call up and ask you about the supposed pre-press release of TFC or something like that. Really stupid, but they wanted me to call up and ask.
Okay, then.
I'm not sure I understand the question. We have released evaluation copies to people in the online press. If that's something that you guys want to get into, send mail to Jenny, Jenni, at valvesoftware.com.
Okay.
And include your URL so she knows you're not just trying to scam a pre-release copy.
No, people don't really try to do that, do they, Gabe?
No.
No, that would never happen.
And one other question, maybe a few more that leads on after this.
Hey, it's great. We need material for the show.
Is there going to be anything interesting, like new, that's an addition to TF, or is it just going to be like straight, what TF was for the Quake engine?
There's certainly been a few changes. We weren't entirely happy with a couple of things in Team Fortress 1, like the heavy weapons guy. I think everyone agreed wasn't too useful. And there's been a couple of additions to things like the Spy. But all in all, it's pretty much TF1. Now, the most common comment we get from all our TF hardcore playtesters is that it's TF1 but different somehow. It's like they all sort of liken it to when they first discovered Team Fortress. It's like it's been given something new and it's fun all over again. There's a lot of just basic things in the engine, like the fact that you can see the exact weapon the player's carrying and you can tell exactly where he's looking, that really changed game dynamics.
Well, and then plus, of course, there are new maps and new game rules, so that makes a pretty big difference as well.
Right. I was reading someone's first impressions of TFC, and I believe what used to be called Hunted, is that now called something like Cap the Prez or something like that?
I saw that too. I'm not sure where he got that name from either. It's called Hunted, based off the original map by Roger Soda.
It's somebody who really needs to get a little more sleep at night and stop watching those Steven Seagal films, I think. Thanks for the call.
All right.
For calling Boot Desk.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So there was a press release demo, and now we have members of the press calling us. Wares.com. And so that's been released to the press to evaluate.
Right.
And the real version is coming out in
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Very cool. Dan, did we have another one we wanted to take here? Taking calls here on bootdisc.com. We're talking to the creators of Half-Life, the guys from Valve. Who am I talking to?
Chris.
Hi, Chris. I'm Paul. How you doing?
Good.
Good. How's the weather out there?
What?
How's the weather out there?
Cold.
Cold? Where are you?
Indiana.
Indiana. Yeah, that is cold, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all snow.
Oh. What's your question?
I've been playing Team Fortress since, it was out, and I just got Tribes, and both of them have been just great team player games, but what I'm wondering about, I had just heard about this game called Fire Team, where they use actual real-time talk.
Yeah, from
plan out
Multitude.
strategies.
Fire Team from Multitude.
Yeah. And I was wondering if, Team Fortress Classic and Team Fortress 2 will reuse that live chat ability.
We think that voice is very important, and it's something that we're looking at very closely. There are a couple things that work really badly. If you have a whole bunch of people just jammering away on a team, it's just a mess. It doesn't actually improve the social experience. What you end up getting is people just shouting and screaming and cussing at other people.
Kind of like us over the headsets on conference call at work while we're playing this one.
Right. And then, but then there are other things that work really well, like allowing, point-to-many for a single person able to talk to a bunch of other people, like a commander class, or setting up voice for fire teams, things like that. So there are some really good ways to use voice that are going to add a lot to the gameplay, and then there are sort of simplistic approaches to voice that really, you end up turning your speakers off, and it's not a useful feature. So we're in the process of learning through that, or working through what are the best ways to do that, and that'll end up getting applied in Team Fortress 2.
That answer your question?
No, thanks. That's it.
Oh, great. Thanks for calling. Hey, Dan, you want to give away another copy of Half-Life?
Yes, I do.
Did we give away a copy before?
No one got the right answer. We only had one call in, so people got to call in and try.
Watching the call-in thing. See, they were throwing it in the chat room. I see. See, they obviously misunderstood us. Okay, let's give away another copy of Half-Life. In fact, let's give away two since we didn't give away one last time. You guys got another trivia question?
Yeah, this one will go out for all the TF players. Just name 5 of the original TF1 classes. Any 5.
Any 5 of the original TF1 classes. Okay, you want to hop up and go into the booth there and tell Dan just what those are so we can...
Maybe make it 3.
Right, so let's make it 3. So so Dan doesn't freak out. So first folks to call in. This is going to be... you want to do call in or chat, Dan?
Let's call in.
Call in. You got to call in. You got to get the second line.
Give them the number, Paul.
1-800-485-1923. First 2 people who can name 3 of the original
Team Fortress classes.
Team Fortress classes. And this is not biology or math or algebra. There's other kind of classes. We'll get a free copy of Half-Life. This is Boot Disc on Talkspot.com. We're talking to the Lord Gods of Valve and Half-Life. We'll be back at the top of the hour. This is Boot Disc with the computer guys on Talkspot.com. Your 2 computer guys, Paul
and Robert.
And we're talking to the gurus of Half-Life. The folks from Valve, the people that brought it all to you with a big wet whap against the wall. Also, we actually have a sponsor today, Robert.
Yes, we do.
This was dropped on my desk right as we started.
And it's not beer this time either.
I know. What's up with that?
Where's my free samples?
That's great. Yeah,
ginger beer.
Wasn't she on Gilligan's Island, the sequel? No, that's the motion picture, I think. Ginger beer. No, I don't think I'm going to go there. We're being sponsored by Game Cave. Game Cave is sponsoring the Half-Life special and the EverQuest special, which I heard was pretty successful. And so they're backing us up. It's GameCave.com.
Go there.
Hey, go there. Go there and buy stuff. Hey, Dan, do we have a winner from that last trivia?
We have the winners.
Woo!
Yes.
Who the heck won?
Let me tell you who won.
Okay,
Daniel Halen won.
Okay, hi, Dan.
Sammy Tarazi won. Yay, Sammy. And Danny De La Paz won.
Danny De La Paz.
Yeah.
We gave away 3 that time.
We gave away all 3.
Woo! Awesome. We have a winner. Cool. So did they give you actual addresses and everything?
We got the addresses. We got all that information, so we're all good to go.
Cool.
Although Danny wasn't very enthusiastic.
He wasn't?
No, it's kind of weird.
Okay, we keep the CD then. We just send him box.
All right.
We got a little enthusiasm here.
Although I sound like some of the calls is typical with the Team Fortress community. People were telling me all of the character classes, all of the different changes that have occurred in the character classes, and where we had gone wrong in designing some of the character classes.
Well, and we appreciate that, don't we?
It's nice to be able to actually lecture the person responsible for all this stuff.
With means or not.
At the height of our sort of Team Fortress edition, the change when we're making the most changes, we were getting about 250 emails a day from people who, 100 of them would be convinced we had a vendetta against their favourite class. What the hell are you doing? You've broken it. You've ruined my class. I hate you.
Did you send in the tribute? I don't think you did you?
I think the internet was founded by Oliver Stone because the paranoia that runs rampant is really amazing. Every time something is not to your liking, it's a conspiracy.
It's all a conspiracy.
Let's catch up on a couple of questions that have been rolling around the chat room.
Mulder.
First thing I want to do, though, is say that we are on for 2 weeks straight with the Half-Life crew. And,
That's
and
true.
we are not talking about Team Fortress 2 this week.
Nope, that's going to be next week, guys.
Save those questions about TF2 for next week. That's when we'll be addressing that.
We're going to ignore them now. We have
Right now,
to get to.
We're going to completely ignore you. You have to come back next week.
That's true.
But
Robin has to make up the answers anyhow.
Yeah, we got to give them a chance here.
Yeah, right now they don't know, so they're just going to think about it all week and then get back to you.
So actually, we're going to take a few more of these calls. We've got some people who've been waiting patiently. Well, not so patiently, but they've been waiting. Hi, this is Boot Disc.
Hi, how are you?
Who's this?
This is Rockstar.
Rockstar.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have like big hair.
I love your stuff.
I love your stuff, man.
I've got all your albums.
Yeah, both. And I love that EP. That EP you put out with Lita Ford. Oh man, that was something. I love the album cover too.
Actually, I think he sold out already.
You think so?
I'm a little young for that, but
There's no such thing as too young to be a rock star, man.
Or too young for Lita
Too young
Ford.
for Lita Ford.
too young to sell out for that.
I was just going there. What's your question?
Well, I have a question basically concerning some of the problems that Half-Life has experienced with multiplayer.
Problems with?
And I was wondering if there were any plans to release another patch with TFC and with the SDK.
Okay, specifically, what problems are you talking about?
Well, I basically would have to put it on a personal level, and
Okay, well, you can call me Paul. That's fine. As long as I can call you Betty.
All right.
All right.
Basically, like I'm on a cable modem,
Okay.
and I have dual 12 meg Voodoo 2s,
Okay.
and I still experience pretty bad amounts of lag in comparison to other engines.
Now, that might be the fault of the cable modem, oddly enough. Cable modems are very fast, but they also are proxies.
Right, but it's also been tested from a T1 and from ADSL.
Okay.
So I did some homework with it to see what I could find, and the config I find in Half-Life does change a lot when you go in there and tweak that.
Okay, actually, this is a great question because Robert and I have been talking about online gaming for some time, and there's so many different aspects to what can cause lag and chop and problems. Gabe, can you shed some light on this? If it's coming from Half-Life, from the internet, what's the scoop?
Well, actually, I'm pretty curious about your config, and if you could send some mail to Jan, Y-A-H-N, at valvesoftware.com. Jan's trying to track down some problems that we've been seeing with some of the cable modem providers. So we're pretty interested in tracking that down. In general, people, on a DSL line, I have DSL at home, and on a T1 line, people shouldn't be seeing any problems at all. So I was a little surprised that you said that you'd seen some problems there. We have had some rare instances of some reports of some cable modem problems, and we're trying to work with the providers to track those down. So anything you can tell Jan about that would be great.
Paul and I play on a T1 at work, and as a matter of fact, so does most of the company, and therefore very little progress is being made these days. So we know that works for most people.
It may well be something to do with the one system as well, which was the typical answer that I got when I tried to contact tech support about it.
Well, one just verifies your CD key is all that does. It really isn't your server or anything.
There's no pass-through there.
Right.
Not really.
So I mean, these kinds of networking issues, you just grind and grind and grind, and you're always finding weird problems with somebody's got some weird router someplace with old router software, and you just in some cases it's as simple as yelling at an ISP to update their software. In some cases, they're bigger problems, and we have to do some stuff.
Well, in fairness, I was previously experiencing cable modem problems, but actually had the guys I'm with at home, and I had them come out and they did a sweep from my node back and removed a bunch of noise and eliminated those issues.
What sort of latency are you seeing?
That's the thing that's really strange. My latency can bounce between 40 and 90.
So, I mean, you should see I'm really smooth.
Cruising right along, but I noticed it's just really weird, like pauses and of course, the equivalent of the Jack of Doom right when you're ready to kill somebody. So gets a bit annoying. But I noticed that playing at anything sort of under 70 is okay, but from 70 up to 120 or 130, which is where I give up, I have some problems.
Yeah, that's really weird. I mean, anything below 200, and you should be
right.
It should subjectively feel really smooth.
Right.
Yeah, so send some mail to Jan, and we'll track it down. The at-home guys are usually pretty good, so I'll be interested in finding out what's going on there.
Now, Gabe, is that for anybody who's having trouble with cable modem stuff should send to as many details as they can to Jan? Is that a
Sure, Jan was supposed to be on the show today, and he bagged on us, so I'm really delighted to give everybody his email address and encourage them.
Give his home phone, too.
Let me give it to you again, YAHN@valvesoftware.com.
If I could actually sneak in a second question here.
Not possible. You told me about it. Now you can't sneak it at all. You can ask it now, but not sneak it.
All right. Well, first off, kudos on getting rid of the spammy pyros in TF2. That's definitely a good thing. But are there any plans set up for here in Arizona where I am? There's going to be a LAN party on Saturday, which is the biggest that Arizona's seen. It's about 130 people so far, and we're actually working with the guys running it, and curious to see if there's any way we can get a preview copy of GFC to play at the LAN.
Which Saturday is this?
It's
a week from today.
Yeah.
Another guy whose email address I'm happy to give out is Doug Lombardi, DOUG.LOMBARDI @Sierra.com. Doug worked with guys at the CPL to set up the test, and they're really valuable for us to sort of have these things running in real-world environments. So everybody out there who wants to clog up Doug's email account, feel free. We actually learn a lot. I mean, we've had 18 people playing continuously, basically around the clock since we set it up at CPL. We've had no client or server crashes, and we've had a pretty heterogeneous environment, and that's the kind of thing that makes us feel pretty good about that we're pretty close to releasing it. So doing a couple more of these LAN party events, I think, is a good idea.
Is the SDK then the main thing that's holding up the release, or?
No, the main thing I think right now is just the last couple little graphic dealies, finishing up the AVI that says Team Fortress Classic rather than Half-Life and things like that.
That would be the technical term, the graphic dealie.
Yeah.
And also, while we have put a lot of testing in on LAN and that sort of stuff, and other people, LAN parties have helped us there, we're also still working on our modem testing and network improvements for that.
Right. Well, thank you for your time.
All right, thanks for the call.
All right, keep up the good work.
Thanks. Go ahead and knock down another one here. Hi, welcome to Boot Desk. Who am I talking to?
This is Dino Jr.
Dino Jr. Where are you calling from, Dino?
Unfortunately, Minnesota.
Oh, wow. Is it like really cold there, or?
No, actually it's starting to warm up, but we got 6 inches of snow, and Minneapolis airport shut down for the first time in like 3 years.
Wow, so you're pretty much in for the duration.
It's nice and sunny, so I can't complain too much.
Oh, well, that's true. What question do you have?
Well, I was curious why in the multiplayer there is a female model, but in the entire game the only other female, there's no female scientists, and it's just kind of curious.
They all had a bad feeling about work that day.
Say again?
They all had a bad feeling about work that day.
Oh, I see.
You're asking about the infamous Gina, I believe.
Because the women are smarter than the male scientists.
They all stepped out that day. Mark, you want to field that one?
Yeah, well, we sort of ran up against some technical limitations that, we would have loved to have the base totally populated with hundreds of unique characters and women and everybody all over the map and have different faces and voices on everybody. And there were some restraints that I didn't completely understand, but they mainly had to do with texture requirements. And we had designed a character who was, at one point we had a whole plot thread about a character who we called Gina. And she figured sort of as a foil for Gordon Freeman, and there were some reasons that we would put her in danger and Gordon would go after her, and she would get teleported to Zen and he'd go after her at Zen. These things turned out to be pretty unwieldy to do on our first pass at a game like this, and with the texture limitations and things we had, we just kind of had to pull back and go for a more streamlined, stripped down story. There were a lot of things like that, but we just ultimately had to cut them or we would just never have shipped.
So that was primarily technical and
Yeah, a lot of creative decisions and story decisions were made based on technical restrictions, and we tried to work. I mean, the technical, without all of those restrictions, we wouldn't have been able to pull off anything. We would have had a big formless mass of a bunch of characters and not really anything happening. So I think we struck a pretty good balance, but there's always more we wanted to do.
There's the one female character that I saw was the stealth assassin, and at least you saw briefly as I was falling to the floor with blood splattered all over the walls.
Well, the Gunark is actually a woman.
Oh.
I'm curious whether how come you can't they don't have a model out or skin or for the female model assassin? Why you can't be that in multiplayer?
Well, as far as I understand, Gabe might know more about this. Ted Backman had tried to adjust that model, and it's just the skin did not fit well on the player model that we had for deathmatch. It probably looked pretty bulky. I know that they were trying that.
Yeah, he tried a couple different times, and the problem is that you try to make the assassin work on top of the multiplayer skeleton, and it looked pretty shitty.
Yeah, if you look at the hologram in the hazard course, and then you look at the female player model for deathmatch, it's pretty much the same skin adjusted to the model, and some major anatomical change happened there. And so if you imagine what would have happened to the assassin, you get an idea of why it just was not a good idea.
It did not look good. Looks like a World Wrestling Federation gone awry, I bet.
I have a similar question to the previous caller.
Okay.
I have a cable modem, and I usually don't have too many lag problems, but when I try to host through the game, I guess through WANnet, I create a game and I play, and then I close it out and then try to create another game. A lot of times my system completely locks up. And the only thing I can do is a physical hard boot off, power off, and then power back on.
Well, as we mentioned before, one actually only does the authentication. You're not actually playing through one. You're playing across a server. I would guess that would be something to email into tech support. Would you say, Robert? With details?
Something I'll send a yawn.
Yeah, send a yawn.
YAHN@valvesoftware.com. Or you can mail it to Doug Lombardi, and he'll do something.
He'll do something for it, too.
I'm sure glad I came here today. I don't know what I'd be volunteered for.
M.A.
All right, thanks for your call.
All right, thanks for highly anticipating anything else from Valve.
Thanks a lot.
All right, bye.
All right, this is a boot disc on Talkspot.com. We're talking to the gurus at Valve, brought you Half-Life, and just basically taking calls. We've pretty much thrown our format out the window today. And
along with the coffee.
Along with the coffee. No, that was thrown down on the boards. Oh, geez, thanks for pointing that out. By the way, if you want to email us, it's bootdisc@talkspot.com. That's BOOTDISK as opposed to bootdick@talkspot.com. That was an incorrect email that went up. That's my personal email. We don't want that one. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a few minutes. We're back with Gabe Newell, Mark Laidlaw, and Robin Walker from Valve Software, talking about Half-Life and stuff coming up, taking your calls, actually. This is great. We haven't had a show where we've taken quite this many calls.
It's big. We're getting calls from, I think, competitive internet sites trying to steal our stuff.
I think so. Yeah, they're Wares users. They're all of them. They're just Wares. So we're, yes, Robin?
Yeah.
You want to say something?
Yeah, it's a guy in the forum just asked a question, so I'd like to clear this up.
Okay.
We've given out press review copies of TFC to several of the larger press sites. We haven't given them out to the actual TF fan sites yet. Note for the guys who are running TF fan sites of Mail Jenny, you will be getting your press review copies. They'll probably go out sometime early next week.
Provided they sent the check.
That's right.
Okay, I was kidding about that. I don't want to get you guys in too much trouble.
And a
I
couple
want you
other,
back next week.
couple other questions that have been coming out of the chat room that has some quick answers.
Yes.
That we'd like to throw out there. One person was asking if there's going to be a Linux port. So I guess single player or multiplayer actually in Linux OS.
Yeah, our Linux activities are going to just be for servers. We're not planning on doing client versions for Linux.
There you go. Any other quick
Simple as that.
questions?
And the other one is everyone is asking Half-Life 2. What's the word?
I'm Mr. Curmudgeon now. Our only announced future product is Team Fortress 2. We don't have any other announced products at this time.
There you go. So let's go ahead. Dan, you want to throw another call in here? We'll pick up a couple more of your calls and make them. We're going to take like one here, folks. You have 473 people waiting to call, and you're number 2.
Hello?
Hi. What's your name?
Hi. I just want to ask some questions.
Okay. You get one. You get one. Make it good.
Aw, damn.
Oh, hey, could you turn down your radio? I've always wanted to say that.
Hey, I just want to mention, because I wanted to ask a question for somebody. I'm derailed just so that this person knows that I was on, because he was like really...
Okay, it's a question for us or for somebody else out?
Did you want to ask Darrell the question?
I was going to ask a question for myself. I guess I'll ask it for him.
Go for it. I said go for
Is
it.
there going to be some patches for Worldcraft for TFC or TF2? You know, to build bubbles.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll be shipping an FGD file with TFC for everyone who wants to make Worldcraft maps, as well as some documentation for that. As for TF2, I don't think that's been finalised yet.
Oh.
So there you go. Looks like...
We do have somebody working full-time now on Worldcraft. It's kind of crufty, and David's doing a bunch of work to make it better, and once we've got that in shape, we'll release an update for people.
So they will be able to use Worldcraft to build levels for TF2 eventually?
Well, I think the question is more aimed at solving some of the problems with the existing Worldcraft that some of the more sophisticated level designers have been running into. So we need to get that out to people.
Okay.
Right.
There you go.
All right.
All right. Thanks for calling.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Okay. Who do we got next? Who's up next?
Hey, this is Image.
Image.
Well, pretty much all these questions are pretty much the same thing. But the first one I have from one of the people in the chat room is how interactive will the vehicles be in Team Fortress 2?
The vehicles?
Yeah.
That's a TF2 question, so I think we have to hold that until next week, or the programming person here will smack us.
Yeah, see, we're doing
This is all
TF2
they're
next week.
asking is about TF2. I don't know how they got that.
Well, that's...
that way they can charge more for their ads next week, I think is the plan.
Yeah, we got to pay for this somehow. Yeah, we're doing TF2 next week.
Yeah, if we do it all now, next week we'll be sitting here twiddling our thumbs and telling jokes for 2 hours.
Yeah, we'll be talking about sumo and God, what else do we talk? We'll talk about Mawashis and sumo like we did that one time.
That's when all the TFC questions will come up next week.
Yeah, no kidding. So hang out, come check us out next week. We'll pick that up.
Here's one that they want.
Okay.
Why did you disable support for Quake and Quake 2 with the Worldcraft patch valve?
Why do we disable?
Well, Worldcraft 1.6, which is out there and anybody can download it. Well, a lot of people say it's Quake and Quake 2. Worldcraft 2.0 was mainly optimized for Half-Life, so...
I'm sorry, you must answer in the form of a question.
Now remember that a lot of changes happened to that Quake engine before it became Half-Life, so some tweaks had to happen to Worldcraft as well. All right, thanks for the call. Who do we have next, Dan?
Hold on.
Okay, I'm holding.
All the buttons.
Yeah.
While we're waiting for that, Hyannis asks in the chat room, how's the Valve guys like Daikatana? Has anyone actually seen Daikatana lately?
I haven't had a chance to play it, but we have enormous respect for John Romero, and I think he knows, just given the amount of scrutiny that they've been receiving, that they're going to have to hit it out of the ballpark. So I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but you got to believe, given his reputation and his legacy in the industry, that he knows what he has to pull off in order to, keep people interested in him and his company.
I saw it at E3, and I saw it again with the latest released demo, and they've come a long way. It's starting to look pretty good. So with John Romero at the helm, everyone here expects to see a pretty good game.
Oh, yeah. Does anybody have an idea when that's supposed to come out? Has there been a release quarter for that yet?
More than once, but...
Okay. Silly me. I've been in the software business how long, and I asked that question?
People at Valve are not really the ones who should be talking about schedules with a straight face, so...
I can understand why, Gabe. Yeah. Who's on the line now? Hello?
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, this is Tim.
Hi, Tim. How you doing?
Doing just fine. This question's for Gabe.
Okay.
Recently had an interview with Next Generation, actually I'm not quite sure how recently, and it was asked, since he's fresh to the gaming industry straight out of Microsoft, how he went about developing these things. And he commented that he dealt with a lot of gamers. And he also pointed out that a lot of companies, let me read from the magazine here, those of you listeners, those listeners that haven't yet subscribed to Next Generation, Gabe said it seems like a lot of developers have had kind of a cynical and almost contemptuous attitude towards their customers. And Gabe pointed out that they did get very involved with the customers through the development of Half-Life. And I was wondering, since you're fresh to the industry, Gabe, working with the gamers, how has that defined for you the entire aspect of gameplay and gameplay and the interactivity that Half-Life has provided, because it is an outstanding game. It's very immersive, and I'm assuming that with no experience in the gaming industry, to come out and make a fantastic game on your first try. What kind of motivation, what kind of definition did you have for gameplay?
Well, there are a couple of different things that go on. First of all, a lot of us hang out on IRC a lot, and everybody's always talking about games in the various channels there. Read the Usenet posts. Those are just being part of the community kinds of things. Another thing we did towards the end, rather than at the beginning, but at the end, we brought in several hundred people to play through Half-Life, end to end, and just by watching people, the first couple of times we brought people in and had them play, we would just cringe at how embarrassed we were at how ill-conceived some of our ideas were, how obscure some of the mission sub-elements were and things like that. And that sort of at the end reminded us a lot of what real gamers are about and what they find interesting and what they find tedious. Before that, just talking to people, everybody, we're all gamers and we all hang out and live with gamers, and, just everybody, there are just a bunch of different ways that we're getting feedback from people before even starting. If you go back and just collect copies of all of the reviews, not the previews, but mainly the reviews over the last couple of years for the first-person genre, there was a lot of similarities in what people were saying in terms of what they wanted in a game. So, basically you just shouldn't, doing shows like this are actually a great way for us to hear from people and hear about either, technical issues that are bugging people more than they really should, or to get feedback on what we did right with the game, with Half-Life, what people would like to see us do better. The TF community is pretty interesting because they're sort of aggressively pursuing us with feedback all the time.
Are they hanging out on your front lawn yet?
I do. I'm probably going to have to switch to an unlisted number because right now people have started calling me at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday saying, "Is this really Gabe? I need to tell you what you need to do with TF2." So,
sometimes anatomically possible.
Right. So, it's as long as you're willing to listen and talk to people, whether it's at trade shows, whether it's online, whether it's just exchanging email. I receive, now it's sort of slowed down. I'm probably only getting several hundred messages a week right now, but as long as you're reading them and thinking about what people are saying, I really don't think your games are going to suffer by paying attention to what people have to say in whatever forum that information comes back to you.
That was something else that happened with, that actually impressed me about you, Gabe, when I first had any interaction with you, was when the whole Sdk thing came down, when Half-Life was first released. I noticed on the boards you were right out there with a statement, and it wasn't a statement that we usually get from companies, which is, we're working on it, it's an issue, yada, yada, yada. You're there saying, okay, this is the real deal. This is what we did. This is how we're fixing it. We understand you don't like this. We're going to change that. It was a real straightforward kind of, this is the real thing. We're not giving you a line here to cover our butts. It's the way things happen. Either we're going to do it this way, or we're going to, and this is the way it has to be, or we appreciate the input, we're going to change it because we're listening to you. And I actually saw a lot of appreciation on the boards for that. So I think, that's been, in my opinion, a big key on why this has been so successful is because you and Valve have gone out of your way to listen to folks, which we don't see a lot.
Yeah, Valve is going to be successful in the long run for two basic reasons. The first is that we get together the right group of smart, talented people who know how to build games, and we don't chase them off by doing something stupid and pissing them off like it seems like a lot of game developers have done over the last couple of years. So get together a good group of people, but the other side of that is you got to listen to the people who are playing the games and talk to them and find out what they care about and how we can make our games better. As long as we're doing those two things, it sounds pretty simple, but that's the recipe for us to be successful in the long run.
Okay, thank you so much for your call.
You bet. Thank you.
Hey, Robert, I just saw something else scroll through the chat room. Somebody posted, said, I'm the best Half-Life player in Scotland. Isn't that kind of like being the best hockey player in Guam?
Yeah. I think, actually, there's probably a few. Let's not get those people upset because they might paint themselves blue and come over here looking for retribution.
Yeah, that's true. I shouldn't say. Also, we have several regular listeners from the UK and from Scotland.
We did have to cut a haggis monster from the game at one point.
Yeah, that was just too scary.
I've seen a lot on IRC about monsters that were cut from the game and why were they cut, and the haggis monster was just too terrible. just couldn't remain.
Too awful.
No one could get past that point in the game.
All the smelling monsters just would vacate. Yeah. Actually, a bunch of different people at Valve have won national championships. I think we have an Australian championship, an All-England champion, a couple of other places. But you'll probably have to track Dario down sometime and have a Scotland versus England one-on-one someplace.
Oh, that would be great. We should sponsor that. Let's see if we can get who's our sponsor today? How's my notes here? That'd be Game Cave. See if you can get them to sponsor sponsor the wars again in Scotland, England. We're going to take another quick break. Take a couple more calls when we get back. This is Boot Disc on TalkSpot.com. This is Boot Disc. We're talking to Gabe Newell, Mark Laidlaw, and Robert Apsel, who's my cohort over here, and Robin Walker, nice cover, from Valve, brought us Half-Life. Mark.
Yeah, I just wanted to actually say a few words about the Half-Life fans and the creative types who are out there and all the people making mods, and especially
the one calling us incessantly right now.
I've seen some questions on the chat, but haven't heard any calls about this. There are a lot of really good amateur mappers out there, and pro and semi-pro people, and I know a lot of like the level designers at Valve got their start in this community. And my personal favorite part of the game design process is the level creation. I just think that's where so much stuff comes together. And I've just been a fan for a long time of the user-created maps, Quake and Quake 2 maps, and I always used to download those and play them through and have a lot of fun. And I was really hoping that when people saw all the tools they had available for Half-Life and all the things that we were trying to do with them, that we get a lot of these level designers out there starting to play around with some of the same tricks, and we'd start to see some new things that we hadn't thought of. And that's starting to happen. I keep an eye on a lot of like Radium does map reviews, and I'm always looking at what are the new single play and deathmatch maps that are out that people are playing, and it's pretty easy to see from the servers which maps are real popular. But particularly the single play experience, we're starting to see people doing some basic storytelling kind of things, like similar to what we tried. They're using a lot of our same tools right now, but I think when the mods start appearing and people realize how they can edit the wave files and create their own effects, we'll start to see some actual new forms of storytelling happening. And it's already happened. I've seen a few maps that are single-player maps, and we've been playing them around the office, and I'll be playing one, and someone will come in and go, wow, is this like a user map? Like, what's going to happen? What are you supposed to do? Yeah. And we just get sucked in. It's sort of like seeing your own game through someone else's eyes, and you get pulled in, you try to figure out the puzzles, and you see encounters that aren't in Half-Life, but things that, I kicked myself in the head. Oh, we didn't put that. We didn't pitch those two monsters against each other.
It's like finding lost episodes.
It is. It's great. It's really fun to see it happening. And it's as I say, it's just now starting to happen that we're taking this leap from sort of the empty deathmatch level, which is fun for running around and shooting other people, to the next level of how do people actually use this stuff to tell their own stories. And I'm really excited to see that happening. I think it reflects really well on the creativity of the whole community of people who are into these kind of games, and especially Half-Life.
Well, one thing for most people, and for myself especially, that hooked me into Half-Life was the story. And, I mean, it's fun to run around after hours at the office and blast people into oblivion, but that does get old and your eyes start falling out of your head.
Yeah, I just see someone on here asking about Freeman's Revenge and the Drug Barons, which are two really fun ones that we were playing this last week. I just had a great time playing both of those.
Now, do those have a storyline as well, or?
Yeah, they're two single-player maps where the designers went to a lot of trouble to assemble pieces so that they actually had a sort of a beginning, middle, and end, as much as you could do with. It's still Gordon Freeman and still the scientists and this whole set of textures, and they're just a blast to play and see that stuff happening.
Well, one thing that I want to actually let people in the chat room know, and people on the phone lines, is we are going to take maybe maybe two more calls, but we're going to wait a little bit here. We want to get some more information out to you, so hang tight.
A lot of people are asking about Easter eggs, Mark.
Easter eggs.
Any word on that?
Any Easter eggs in there?
There probably are things in there that I don't even know about. I found out about some stuff after the game came out, so I'm not going to give any away on the air, but there is some stuff in there.
Gabe, you have anything you want to
comment?
Let go?
Not really. Most of the Easter eggs that I know about are at my expense, so so we're not.
That's why I wasn't going to bring them up.
YAHN@valvesoftware.com.
As long as we're sort of handing out props for people, there are two sites that I think more people should know about if they don't already know about them. So if you've got a chance to check out www.evilavatar.com, I'd recommend it. And another site, one of the funniest sites on the internet, is www.oldmanmurray.com.
Yay, Old Man Murray.
We everybody at Valve reads those two sites pretty religiously.
Okay, well, let's shamelessly plug them then. I think Robin's going to go ahead and put those up in the chat room for you. We have no pride whatsoever. We'll shamelessly plug anyone, especially if they'll send us a box full of money.
Something that I don't think really has been announced yet. I think I'm going to be sending out something to the fan sites later today or tomorrow.
We're going to get a scoop here, Robert.
Is a couple of new people are joining Valve. One is Zabi Eng. Zabi is a guy whose artwork everybody's seen since he's been doing cover art for PC Gamer and some of the console game magazines over the last years. So he did like some of the Turok 2 and Quake 2 cover images for the magazines. He's now working at Valve, doing a bunch of conceptual art and working with Ted Backman a lot. Two other guys who just joined that some people I think who have heard of are Charlie Brown and Gary McTaggart are two of the better known engine developers in the gaming industry. They were probably what people know about that. Well, they were last working with the Rebel Boat Rocker guys on their engine, and before that they were working on the FAC 2 engine. So they're both now at Valve, and they're sort of beavering away on doing some work on Team Fortress 2.
What happened to your previous hiring policy of hiring pizza delivery people and that sort of...
Well, we have an office manager position, so that's open. So people with strong pizza delivery backgrounds could apply for that.
Hey, Robert, there you go.
I'm there, dude.
You're all over that.
But why not? A game company run by a Microsoft OS guy, why not a pizza delivery man?
All we need is a Mountain Dew contact, and they're pretty much covered.
It makes no sense, but it all works, folks.
Right.
Makes no sense. This makes no sense.
The one that's most surprising is the tattoo artist who's now a modeler. That was probably the most unusual. Or the patent attorney who's now a programmer for us. People seem to come to the game industry through very perverse routes.
It's a secret hobby of theirs. The secret vice they have late at night when no one else is around, they're playing, and now they have a chance.
Well, that leads us to this question. I don't see any tattoos, Gabe.
Yeah, I was going to ask you all to roll up your sleeves here.
Sounds like free tattoos in the office.
Yeah, we do get free tattoos. We were going to actually take Chuck and set him up in a tattoo booth at E3 until Sierra's lawyers just completely panicked. I leave the tattoos and scarification to Wedge. He seems to be hell-bent on retexturing himself. And he's blown his texture budget big time, so I'll leave that to...
You need a Voodoo 3 to render him.
Ooh, your own personal Voodoo 3 person. I'd love to see him completely done as one of the creatures, all texturized as one of those. That would be cool. No, I take that back. I wouldn't want to see that. No, I need a lot more coffee for that.
Actually, this will be one of our trivia questions for next week.
Okay.
For those of you who can actually make it through two of these, who is the most tattooed person at Valve? And the answer is Harry Teasley.
Harry Teasley. Okay, remember that, guys. But you got to come back next week to win that one. So let's say we want to knock out one more call here, Dan. Hi, you've been patiently waiting to talk to us on Boot Desk, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Who are you?
J.F. Miller.
J.F. Miller. Oh, you gave your last name. Okay. So much for the witness protection program.
He has a real name.
He has a real name.
How'd you come up with that one? That's probably the most unique pseudonym we've heard all day.
That's great. Which question?
We give you your secret pseudonym of Weasel.
Weasel. Okay. You have to use that everywhere when you play on Half-Life now because Gabe said so. Hello, is this thing on? I know this thing... Dan, can you turn my mic up here a little bit? I don't think it's getting through. What's going on?
I'm the creator of HL Man Server.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if you guys know that.
Yeah, sure.
I
take Weasel back. You're hamster now.
You've been upgraded to rodent.
About hosting a server, and they don't get their host names or server info displayed on the in-game IP list or on GameSpy or any of the other server.
Well, the problem that we saw with HL Man Server, what people were doing was they were changing which of the two host servers they were pointing at. And And that was what was giving some people fits. With 009, that's not a problem. We figured out a way to work around it, but people were pointing at the wrong authentication server, and that's why they were unable to see their own name. So it was showing up, but it was showing up in a different list. So that gets all fixed in 009. We saw a bunch of people who were doing that. I don't know why they decided to change that, but every time we talk to somebody, we drill down and find that they'd been tweaking around with they'd say, oh, I'm on the West Coast, so I'll change to the West Coast authentication server. By the way, it's a great app. I use it at home. I've got a DSL line, and I use your program to run my server.
Ooh, I think you should put that up as a plug there now. Gabe has said he uses your server, man.
Well, I use it, and I still can't get mine to show up, and I've emailed 1.net, and they have...
YAHN. If you're having problems, just ask Jan, because he looked into it for a while, and I think he figured out what was going on.
And kind of another question I'd have...
By the way, I use your program, and I haven't had the problem, but I haven't tried to mess around with where...
Why do you guys use a second program to run a dedicated server, like HLDS? Like Quake 2, and Unreal, they use the master program to run the dedicated server. Why did you guys go to a separate program?
I think it just ended up being smaller, and it also made we could separate out the UI that way.
Yeah, and I was kind of thinking that would be the problem. There's like separate, because I know some people say when they start the game from in the game, they're listed, but when they use the HLDS, they have problems with their server being listed.
That would be odd, since they're using the everything that all the settings they're using should be the same.
So basically, if you need some detailed work on this, it's Jan, YAHN at valvesoftware.com, or Sierra Tech Support is handling the technical side of this.
For the server
Not
stuff,
one.
yeah. For the server stuff, go to Jan.
Let's go to Jan. For other stuff, 1net only does the authentication, so email Sierra for the other tech support stuff. Okay, thanks for your call.
Hey, when's the next release of HL Man coming out?
When I get TFC.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thanks a lot.
Goodbye.
Okay, we've been talking. Yeah.
Hey, if he could send mail to Robin, we probably want to make sure that we're interoperable with his stuff. So let's see if we can't get him a copy beforehand to make sure we haven't introduced any new interoperability problems.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, now who do you want this guy mailing to?
Mail Jan and CC it to me as well. Robin at valvesoftware.com.
Oh, you've given yours. Oh, you're
okay. ROBIN, not YN.
Everybody got that? Got that written down? Okay. This is
If you send it to dingo at valvesoftware.com, it'll get to Robin as well. He just spewed all over his computer. That was great.
Nice. First me with the coffee, now you with the Coke. Good job. We're not going to be here next week. The place is going to go up in flames. This has been a Boot Desk on Talkspot.com, a special presentation. We've been chatting with Gabe Newell, Mark Laidlaw, and Robin Walker of Valve Software, who brought us the best game ever made, some people have said. Although Robert still thinks it's Tribes. Best game ever made,
Half-Life. Tribes is my multiplayer game, but there hasn't been TFC out there yet.
Yeah, you're only saying that because Gabe's in
No, well, he's bigger than I am. And, of course, Half-Life is the single-player game.
Of course.
It's it.
Of all time. Next week, we are going to be talking about TF2, Team Fortress 2. We're going to have these guys back in. That's why we didn't answer any questions about that today, guys. It's called a cliffhanger.
Thanks to everybody for tuning in.
That was Gabe.
Thanks a lot.
And that was Mark. And over here with the lovely voice is Robin.
Thank you.
All right, dude. I think I hold in my...
Oh my god, the flashbacks.
I know.
The flashbacks are killing me, man.
That was really fun to listen to. I think I'm holding in my hand the original release of Half-Life. I
think you were right.
I know.
I don't see any extra stickers on it.
Published by Sierra.
Back in the day. And this is the Game of the Year edition, which includes Team Fortress Classic.
So I'm kind of curious after listening to this. You spill your drink. Like, what, 30 seconds into the
Oh my
interview?
god, that was so funny. In the so we're in the studio, and we get everybody in there, and we're ready to go, and we fire it up, and the first thing I do is knock my coffee into the console. That wasn't made up. It just, everything in, there's cracks in the desk where there's a seam, and it all runs down, and it runs into, there's a cupboard underneath there that had a CPU. And that just, coffee ran into that. And so
were they in the studio with you?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
They were. It was me and Robert, and then Gabe. I think Gabe was here, and Robin was there, and and just first thing, kaboof, over it goes, and a producer is just like waving at me and said, "Oh, just go to commercial here." So yes, as Robert said, it all started with an accident.
Oh my God, that's so awesome. But, I mean, Half-Life 1, I mean, the thing I love about this interview is that it's a time when it's before Valve is Valve that we know today.
Right.
Long before Steam. Long before Half-Life 2 and Portal and all these other games.
Yeah, this was the beginning. And the thing about this is Ken Williams, who owns Sierra, of course, the story is he turned down Doom.
Right.
Because he didn't think a first-person shooter, he thought it was dumb. And
probably overly violent compared to a lot of the other games we had at the time.
Right.
We hadn't made Phantasmagoria yet, but yeah.
They were doing all family-friendly stuff like Soft Porn Adventures and Leisure Suit Larry,
right,
and that kind of stuff. So it didn't quite fit in. Different kind of first-person shooter there.
Whoa.
Yeah. But so this was big that Sierra was going to do a first-person shooter because of that history.
Yeah.
And so we were super excited in tech support.
Oh yeah.
And in fact, there was a naming contest.
I remember that.
To name the game.
Yeah.
And they put out through the company, and I believe again, beer 20 years. A guy named Andrew in tech support in the SynQ was the one that picked the name Half-Life. And he won some kind of prize trip somewhere.
Yeah.
I wanted to call it Flashburn.
I vaguely remember also Blue Shift being an option in the list, which was later used.
Right, it was a game later.
Which was cool too.
So that was back when Jeff Lane, who works for Valve now, was still working at Sierra.
Yeah,
because he's working on SWAT.
Yeah, the SWAT games. I know.
So this just listening to these recordings, gives me major flashbacks listening to myself. And as somebody pointed out, some of the jokes I use today are still fresh.
Yeah, I know. You're still recycling those even today.
Oh, yeah. I know. They're original if you haven't heard them before.
That's right. Oh, well, love to know down in the comments if you guys like this series, because we've got a bunch more of these, including interviews with Age of Empire developer Jane Jensen of Sierra fame.
Yes.
Kevin
Eastman.
Oh, yes, that's right. And Ritual Entertainment with Heavy Metal Fact 2.
Yes.
So let us know if you want to watch, listen, and read those. I was just
listen and read, yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys are enjoying this look back at the gaming industry before it became the monster machine that it is today. It's so funny how back then people just didn't really know exactly how big it was going to get. I mean, I think people in the gaming industry like us knew, or at least suspected, but nobody had any idea it was going to become bigger than movies and music and all that stuff. It's pretty cool. So also, thanks to Paul for letting me share these. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching.